Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Let's start with our weekly sync. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Please.
Yeah, so exciting news. The React Native components is coming from the UI builder now. So basically we can start adding our React Native components. You still have to add some code on the native site whenever you're creating new component. But yeah, I've just created the pull request regarding the changes which Francois did to the API. So yeah, if anyone would like to have a look at that, I can share my screen, and maybe you want to have a look how it looked like in the app. Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, brilliant. So basically, those are normal components in the app, like you see grid and lists. And then we got the React Native component. And this component is resizing itself. So whenever we are having updates on the React Native side, it will resize the content as well. And it's like it's basically you don't have to add anything whenever you're creating the new React Native component, because everything is added through the Zap team. The Zap team is adding the components inside UI Builder, and then it's coming with the plugin configuration. So you don't have to create the plugins manually. The Zap team will do that for you. You just need to create the native code for the new component type, and that's it.
All right, looks great.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Anything else? That's it, Anna?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm working on the React Native standalone views. At the moment, we are having some progress, but it's still under discussions how we exactly will be passing all the information between the native site and a React Native. So maybe next week.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I can go next.
Yeah.
So I've been I have updated last week. I'm working on adding the Chromecast support to our full screen player. So I'm almost done with the task. Hopefully by tomorrow I will have all pull requests ready, so they can be reviewed, and hopefully meanwhile also tested with multiple apps. As I talked to Guy, did Do speak to you regarding the application that needs to be tested?
No, actually, we haven't spoken about it.
We haven't. Okay.
But we don't test the player.
No, it doesn't matter. We're still changing the dependency for Chromecast, the library that is being used, or something that's changing there. Not sure.
Okay, yeah, I have changed all the implementation. Like I have removed the CAS utils and re-implemented it using what I call a cast manager that is lifecycle aware. It's a lifecycle aware component that gets the lifecycle from the activity, and it can register listeners and remove listeners according to the lifecycle. So yeah, I think the changes need to be tested in your apps. So better safe than sorry. So I will speak to Do again to make sure that he speaks to you and Elisa. So so he knows what to test and which apps to test. Another thing, while working on the Chromecast, I noticed they have a bug in the version that like we have in the SDK, and I have tested the newer version, and this bug was resolved. So I might have like I might need to update our Play services to the newest version, but I want to know like what is the effect. Like, you know, I see Mirav is smiling, so yeah.
The Play services, not the same thing.
Yeah.
So come again, when are you expecting to update Play services? And to what version?
Like, for now, if I deploy the Chromecast as is, we have a bug in the expanded player that is resolved with the latest Play services library, like version. So the bug is not that critical. It's just when you launch the expanded player, it starts, the icon starts as if it's muted, which is not. But if you like use the latest support library, it is fixed, and the icon is displayed correctly.
Support library or Play services? I'm now confused.
No, Play services.
Okay, now we said support library. Okay, so I'm correct. Okay.
I'm talking the support library. I saw that you already updated, so it's okay. I don't need to. Yep. So yeah, it's just the Play services. So the question is like, I'm not sure, like it's a huge jump between like 11.0 and it should be now like 11.8. It's a big jump, so I'm not. I need to like investigate what are the changes, and you know what might go. You know, I think it might cause some you know, deprecation or breaking changes, or like I don't know. So before, if anyone has like some info on like what it might cause and so on, I would love to, you know, to get some help.
Are you depending the release of your Chromecast release with that Play services?
No. I'm working on the current Play services that we have, but the problem is that it includes some UI bugs that, you know, they might be critical.
I'm asking, for your final release, you're going to have to update, or you're okay with releasing it how it is, and then you create another update?
It depends on the client. You know, I need to check with Dror or Anama, but it might be okay because it's only like a UI bug, but you know.
All right. So just one request: updating Google Play services is fine, but we need, in the EU team, we need proper notice about that, because we need to update the developers that we work with, because they will probably have to update theirs, unless they're competitive. But I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that will be all for me.
Good. Thanks.
How did you? Just a technical question. How did you register to the activity lifecycle? You said you were registering to the activity lifecycle.
Yeah. So recently, when the Android have announced the architecture component, so they have like on the activity, if it's like a fragment activity or an app compact activity, they have a method which is get lifecycle, and you pass it, for example, to the manager, and then you can observe it on the manager, and then you can, like, from my manager, I observe the lifecycle of whatever activity I subscribe to.
Yeah.
Okay, what Anna basically told me once.
Yeah, but we need to be very careful with that components, because they are living even if the view is no longer living, because it's basically the idea for that was created for the view models. So the view models are holded until you stop subscribing to them. So if you holding them outside of the fragment or activity, you need to be careful.
Yeah, I know. All right, thanks. No problem. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Tarek, that's it?
Yep, that's it for now.
All right, awesome. Okay, Tara, do you have something?
Well, I was actually trying to use the new family thing that we created, and I found a couple of issues actually regarding, like, for example, adding a new component like the horizontal component. Then also I had another issue where I, had like different layouts for tablet and phone for the same like component, and for some reason it was getting a completely different layout. So finally, time pressure, it's we need to finish this task by tomorrow. So I decided to just go for the old behavior once again because I don't have the time to actually start dealing with these bugs. So this is something important, that actually before the task is actually finished, to actually test it properly, because I told you I needed to spend some time to actually do those things. And I fixed a couple of issues, and then I tried to use it again, and then I had just yet another issue with the layouts, and it's like, look, I don't have the time right now to, unfortunately, to spend on.
Javi, did you create the pull request for the fixes you've done?
The thing is that I told Alex, and he already did. So
okay.
And so that's it. And then for the issue, the layout, I didn't have the time. So I don't know why it's getting like a layout from a completely different family, even though in the XML says like
the
another
answer
one.
is easy, spaghetti.
A what?
Spaghetti is the answer.
I don't know why it is. And I just didn't have the time to fix it today. So I end up just, using the old one just because this is my fifth family. So I know it by heart nowadays. Hopefully no one else needs to learn it so much. But so I needed to actually finish this task. And hopefully once it's actually done, I can actually spend some time to actually figure out what the issue is with the other one. And that's it pretty much. So nowadays, working mainly with, families as usual. So
is Alex aware of all the issues that you raised?
Not the latest one. So the other ones, yes, he's aware. The horizontal, I know Elad proposed a PR, but I rejected it because it's once again going back to the same massive big enums, that we had per component. And the whole idea of the XML is to remove all those weird enums with changes in the metadata and those enums, who knows why. So the idea is to strike for be able to remove, as much of that weird logic and, and actually simply, control everything through the XML, like all the properties and everything. And so I need to get some feedback from him, I guess. And then I will tell Alex as soon as he's online. I will tell him about the issue with the layout. So.
Okay. All right. Yes, information. Definitely. Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.
Pablo?
I was working on iOS this week.
Okay. So now you're just spying on Android. Okay, cool. Javi?
So I left off last week with basically the same update. I was able to finish the player plugin we were working on. Now I will probably hop on and help Javier finish the family, since we need to deliver that soon. We also have like this new thing with this family that we haven't done before in any other family, where the client wants to like have a color for a specific element of the cell change depending on the data source. So like if it's news, it'll be blue. If it's sports, it's green, etc. And we want to achieve this dynamically. So through the data source, they're passing a color for each feed. We're gonna probably take it out from the extensions or something, and then use that dynamically to apply color to the cell. Besides that, we are also going to start working on ComScore. I don't know if anybody has used that plugin. I know it already exists. I know Elad Ben David made it like almost a year ago, but this client is requesting it. So I'm probably going to jump in there and try to update if it needs updating and see how we could use set again. Yeah, that's it for me.
Quick question that I forgot from my side, by the way, that Javi, I need to talk to you about that. Did anyone touch the tab bar or somehow? Like, because the thing is, the Avanza, that we have an application where the connected screens, it was working fine, but nowadays the tab bar, it doesn't render. Like in the connected screen, there's like one component and then another component, and I don't know why it doesn't render. And I was wondering if anyone actually touched anything related to that in the last few.
Not that I know of. You're talking about kind of like how Arna Marin had the swipeable full screen tabs?
No, it's a different thing. So it's on the connected screens. The way we form the screens is like you need to place a feed, which it has multiple feeds depending on how many components you have. And there is, so we set up that, like structure for Avanza a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago, and it was working just fine. And now I got a ping from Chema saying that it is actually not working anymore. And I was actually taking a look today, and I could not figure it out. I don't know why. It identifies there is two components, but at some point only the carousel, which is the one on the top, gets the content, but the other one at the bottom doesn't. And then you go to tablets, and it also behaves differently, which actually shows the one on the top, and then actually the tabs actually show, but then it shows information from the one on the top, and it's like that doesn't make any sense. So,
is it a bottom tab bar you're using? You're using bottom tab bar?
No, it's just the tab bar. So in UI Builder, there is the section picker, so something similar to you guys talked, which is like, it's different screens, and then you have the tab bar, which is actually rendered in collections like a list or a grid. So it's a bit different. And it's actually using this tab bar because, in a screen, you cannot put a picker and another component at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I see that there's a lot of confusion with these names. It's a lot. We have the bottom tab bar, and that's different. That's navigational. And then we have tab bars, which is standard tabs at the top. And then we have the screen picker or the section picker or whatever it's called. So it leads to very confusing talks, and I don't know.
But the name in the UI Builder is not tab bar. That's why you're confused. The
names in the code and the UI Builder are different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You have tab layout and screen picker, not section picker. Tab layout and screen picker. When it in the code, they are using each other.
Nothing related to layout. There is screen picker, which is picking screens, and tabs that are tabs. It's called tab bar in the UI Builder.
Not tab layout?
Not layout. No.
Okay. So I'm confused.
Well, regardless, sorry to get off topic, but I can take a look. I don't know. I haven't heard of any changes there, so I can take a look at that.
Sure. And I was wondering if anyone touched anything similar, any related to that.
No, nobody in this room knows about it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Who else have we got? This one.
Mr. Gil?
I think the update.
No. Is there any updates from the SAP team, like Ran or Gil?
No.
Can I add one more question? Because I've just created that pull request, and it's literally a couple of lines of code which shouldn't do anything, and I got my test didn't pass. So, and I have no idea why. It's on the index HTML on some tests. I don't know what is that. Have we added some new tests over there, or don't know?
Can you publish in the Android channel?
You need to put some context, Anna. We are not really into.
No idea.
We have no idea what you're talking about.
Plus, you're muted.
Yeah, that sounds better, when I'm muted. So basically, yeah, I've did the changes to the API for which Francois asked me for regarding the UI components now in a plugin configuration. So instead of bundle URL or whatever the name was, React bundle URL, instead of we can have their string, or we can have the dictionary there, which contains the iOS link and Android link. So basically, it's just a parser change. It's nothing. It's detecting is that a string or it's a dictionary and parsing properly, and this is it. And I'm getting, I don't know, I'm getting that the test didn't pass for the really simple change.
No idea. I was just looking a quick look at the stack trace, and I have no idea. What doesn't say anything. It just says when it's trying to execute, it just fails.
Yeah.
In the debug unit test.
It doesn't say me anything like what's the index HTML in tests.
No, that's just a report. So.
Oh, right.
It's just saying that if you want to take a look, you can see the report that index.html. I don't know. The only thing I would think is try to execute them locally and otherwise rerun task. So see if actually you can.
You just saw it run it locally. So
yeah. So
presenting.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, so try to run that test, the bug unit test. Otherwise, just try to run it again. Sometimes
Okay.
Like circle just goes bananas.
Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Owen, do you have anything?
No.
All right. Dror, anything from your side?
No.
Okay.
By the way, you're going to Barcelona soon, right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Why?
If you have some
Mobile World Congress
companies that you want me to talk with.
I was going to tell you bars you can go to.
Actually, it's my first time in Barcelona, so you're welcome to.
Sergey will be there, though.
What?
Sergey will be there.
Bieber?
Sergey will be in Barcelona.
Bieber.
In this
Really? I will talk with him. No, I'm going to stay the weekend, like the 2 days after, to stay there.
Nice. Enjoy.
Yeah, ping me. I'll tell you a couple of places you can go. They're nice. So,
cool.
Barcelona many times. So.
Yeah, Laura also will be there. So
okay.
Ran, do you have anything?
No, I don't know if I missed the part that you were discussing about the changes with the support to Android 27. I don't know because I joined late. So,
actually, we didn't say anything about it. Now that you're mentioning,
so right, it's a silence of the lamps.
No, actually, it was since it was merged to dev. Yeah, we're doing. It was merged to dev, but we're also doing a hotfix for the existing version. So I forgot to talk about the fact that it was merged to dev. So yeah, updating the support library. We said last time that there was there was an intention to update it, and now it finally happened. There was an issue with the way that Circle was downloading the support library during the build process.
We downloaded.
It's not an issue with Circle. It's an issue of Google. Google.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
Published it to the repository with they published two different packages with the same checksum, with the same SHA. So someone in Google made a mistake, and then basically everything that you're trying to download was failing. And so we needed to use SDK Manager.
Yeah.
To solve the issue.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we encountered such an issue. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the first time. I would prefer not to have this because we download it regular and then we download another one via the SDK Manager. So it's preferable not to do it, but there's nothing to do.
Yeah, once they release the next version, probably it will be, hopefully it will be resolved. So we don't.
Yeah. What I wanted to mention is one thing. You should all know at least a basic knowledge of what is a Docker file and how to test it locally. I'm not saying that you need to be a perfection of knowledge of how to write a Docker file, because I don't think that it's really important or needed, but at least to be able to run it locally, to see that it builds and it successfully builds or fails or something like that. At least this is the minimal. And it's very simple to run it. You download an app that is called Docker, and you run it, and then you just run the command of Docker, and after a couple of minutes, it will tell you if it's successful.
And you need to create accounts.
No, that's
What?
uploading.
No,
I'm not saying you don't need to upload, but at least test it locally. I'm not saying to upload. Okay, that's fine. I talked to Guy yesterday regarding the process of the thing. It's irrelevant here, but I'm saying it's very simple to run it and to test it. And if you're doing changes, please test it, because it's problematic. And until you're really running it, it's very hard to find issues there on the pull request, unless there is a syntax issue. But if not, it's very complicated to find if the synchronous process will succeed or fail, or if you need to move one line above or under. That's one thing. The second thing is, are you sure that we're not going to have some issues because we're changing the compile version? So
the other thing is not only we're changing the support library, so we're changing also the compile SDK version 2.27. I'm not sure. We're still going to have to test. We're going to include these two changes, the support library and the compile SDK version, as part of the hotfix that Gil is helping us create, based on SDK 5.7.0, right? And then we'll see. But basically, no, we don't know yet. We've reviewed the documentation. Doesn't seem too big, but we'll know after we will start working with it.
Okay.
So for the meantime, it will be released as a hotfix, and then it's integrated to dev, so it will go through the cycle.
Yeah.
The next release.
We got actually a question to run with me and Pablo. So basically, we are working on the React Native new screens, like full screens. And sometimes the designs are containing the navigation from the React Native. And the thing is that we would like to know what's the idea for this kind of situation whenever we need to hide the native navigation. So if this is something what will be configured from UI Builder, or we will be configure this stuff inside of the plugin itself. So this is the question to you, Ran.
It's about timelines. Eventually, yes, we're working on the navigation story. It will allow you to hide and show and customize your navbar per screen. So there will be an API, and you will get a parameter that you can configure. So basically, the user will be able to configure it. At the moment, there is an API. It's a question for Gil, actually, because Gil is now working on it. So there will be an API that will allow to customize the navigation per screen. And currently, you might need to kind of hard-coded. It depends on the timeline, but you will maybe need to hard-code in your plugin the use of one way of this API. But yes, I hope that in the following 2 weeks, we will have this navigation story done end-to-end, or at least the first iteration end-to-end, and it will allow a lot of flexibility. per screen and other things. So yeah, let's say in a month from now, for sure, yes. But I don't know what is your timeline. And
yesterday.
Yeah, it's always. But you need to talk to Gil and ask him if there is the API for that is ready, and maybe then hard code in your plugin, not to present or send the parameters in a way.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. What was the context of that change that we need to do the bundle install and that, AWS thing? What was actually that change, just to know?
Yeah, so couple of things. First, it's recommended every time that you have a failure in your build to go through the README and go through step by step, because to do the bundle install is one of the steps. And every time that we're adding basically a dependency library in the Ruby part of the code, you need to run it, because it's basically like installing the dependency. The need for this specific one was because on the Canary builds I'm publishing changelog to S3. So not a changelog, more of a, well, it is kind of a changelog, but more of a list of commits. So it has the build of the preview SDKs has an artifact on S3 that was needed to be uploaded during the build process. So that's the reason why the AWS SDK was added. It's on the Ruby part and on the build process. Well, not the build of the Android part, but the build of the app itself on CI. And that was an intro to say that tomorrow there is an issue needs to be fixed. Small issue I will do it today, but from tomorrow, the Canary builds are official because they are connected to a changelog or a list of commits, basically. So you are able to, basically they are operational already, but without the changelog, it's problematic because you were needing to go to GitHub to see the changes. So now you can view the changelog in Zap. And with that being said, the next SDK will probably be released in 2 weeks. From the next SDK, we will release in a 2 weeks time frame, the SDK, so the official SDK. I want also to share with you the process of releasing. I think I already shared it, but let me just verify how to release an SDK and how to release a hotfix. And the process is supposed to be super simple. Basically, you just need to tag your SDK, the Zap Android, and push the tags. You must follow semantic versioning, otherwise it will not work for you. And if you want to create hotfix, also there is another procedure. And if you want to add if you want to base your SDK on something that is not the latest development, and this is another important thing that I want to mention, but this is more on the Zap team responsibility. But basically, every tag that you're tagging, every SDK that is created is based on the latest development SDK, unless it's been told to do something else. And there is a possibility for things like hotfix. And that you need, because you need to base it on a SDK of Zap, that is not the latest. Probably you will have to do it Tsarfati, so you need to write a commit message in a certain way, and you need to tag your hotfix in following semantic versioning, and it will just work, and it will generate the SDK of Zap, and it will allow you to build. So we deprecated the tool that is called Trogon. There's no need to use it anymore. It's only to tag the SDK. I will share the document now in the Android channel. But in general, the process of creating SDK is the responsibility of, an official SDK, not a development for testing, but an official SDK.
Official, it's a daily SDK, right?
It's the daily or the by or the
the release one. Yeah.
Or the official, yeah. So this process is only to release basically SDKs that you want to use for releasing an app to the store. But again, it should only have, you should only do that when you have issues like what Sarfati mentioned, that you need to do hotfix or something like that. There's not supposed to use it for something else. I'm sharing it now in the Android channel, the process. You can read on your free time just to be aware, but again, the Zap team should be responsible for doing it in a normal basis. If it's a hotfix, you can do it yourself, like the Europe team will do. That's it.
Two things, Ran. First one, the good thing is if you guys do a change on the dependencies for the Ruby part, please ping the channel, so we don't encounter the issue. We don't know what to do. So
that's fine, but it's similar of saying, I will make sure it's happening, but it's similar of me telling you to ping every dependency that you're adding on Android.
No, but I mean, of course, we ping everyone if, we are changing dependencies that it can potentially break everyone's code. So,
but it's not breaking anything.
I mean, we cannot build, so we cannot do break. So
why you cannot build? It's like you tell me I need to let you know that before you're running Android, you need to run a Gradle assemble.
And it's the same if you update the Sapifest. Like if something is going to break before actually running the tool, like just do a one-liner, say, hey guys, we updated the dependencies.
I will do that, but I'm explaining you that you need to understand that in our stack, it's not only Android, it includes Ruby. And there is a README that you need to follow. And then if you need to troubleshoot, then you can ask the question. We can notify for everything, and it's fine. There is no such thing as over communication, but this is basic, and it's in the README, and it's a dependency that was added. I'm not expecting you to notify every dependency that you're adding on Android or in any other part, but for the next time, we will make sure that we notify. But again, it's everything there written, so just follow the README. You should be fine.
Maybe we can add a bundle install invocation in the prepare workspace command. So it will automatically...
That, but it's not really necessary. You can do that. It's like, and again, it's like we can add also in the end of the prepare workspace Gradle assemble debug. It's similar. It's, you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, because we're working locally. We want to open the project. We don't want to compile it, otherwise there's Zap. And this is part of making it work locally. So, I don't know.
If you want to add it, you can add it to the prepare workspace. You can open a pull request and you can add it.
Although then we can get maybe messed up dependencies or something by mistake.
No, you cannot.
There's a specific version for everything, or they are added with plus or something?
No, there should be explicit. No, I need to check. I don't remember by heart, but there should be version.
But even if it's not, it's better to be the same on Zap. But it give you a better.
Yeah, if it will fail locally, it will fail on Zap.
And then the other question is this SAP SDK release process 2.0. Is this always going to be living in a document, or are you planning to put it in a internal developer website or something like that?
We don't have internal developer website.
The community one, whatever it was called.
When we will have some place that will be only for internal, I will publish it there. But as
no,
long
it's just for anything, it's discoverability. Otherwise, it's it's pretty easy to miss it. So.
Again?
Yeah. No, nothing. That's something I talked to Francois as well. That if we do everything with Google Drive, it's really hard to find it, later on.
Is that not something what Devra was talking about? Like, I think she proposed something like that, some kind of tool. No?
Udi, you're welcome to ask Udi. Once we will have an internal, this is something that should not be published for externals. So once we have an internal domain, we will publish it there.
Cool.
For sure.
Yeah, that's it.
But you can ask him. You can ask Udi.
Yeah.
Once we have the tool, it's very easy to put it there. But yeah.
I think you should be happy, Javier. There will be a issue tracker, you know, stuff like that, bug tracker, issue tracker. I think it's all coming.
Well, what? Sorry?
You know, you were, once you were asking where we should actually report any bugs, because we don't have like issue or bug trackers.
Yeah, but it's not been officially decided that we're going to use Airtable for that.
Okay.
It is more likely that we're not going to use Airtable for bug tracking and workflows, but again, nothing is closed. Just saying from preliminary testing and checks that have been done, it might not be 100% adequate for our ongoing workflow needs. But we'll see.
Ran, I have I have a question about the Zap API for asset and styles, let's say. If I want to load a specific asset from Zap, should I use the remote configuration or directly the asset URL, like to build? Like, what is the best practice for this?
I don't think you have asset URL.
I can find. If I click on one specific asset from Zap, it's not like the API, the URL for this specific asset?
Yeah, but tomorrow it will be moved. So I think you should use the API that provides you key and value and not relying on an URL that's, I don't know where it can move or not. And it's not an API. This is just the URL of the asset.
Yeah.
So if tomorrow someone is deleting the asset and puts it somewhere else, it will not work for you.
And the remote configuration, it's called?
Yeah. In the remote configuration, you can have remotely all the assets, all the styles, and all the.
Are we loading it already, or we need to do the load?
Apple TV are using it, but for what reason you need it?
I need a specific asset for Chromecast that we cannot use a local asset. We need to provide a URL to the asset, like a remote URL.
Yeah. Before adding this JSON, please talk to us, because the load, to add another load to the app is...
yeah, that's why I'm asking if...
something that...
maybe we can do some other way instead of loading it.
The URL that you have for the asset is just the URL address, but I wouldn't count on it that it will stay there.
Yeah. Okay.
And now, Ran, that you're here, actually, I have a question for you. What is your take on assets and style namings between families? Because they can collide with each other. So what happened is, I'll give you an example. So there is this application, MedcomGo, which uses two different families. And according to the spec, both families are using item overlay 01, for example, for an overlay, like the key name. And individually for that family it makes sense. But when you use both, those overlays are totally different, rendered in two different cell styles. So the aspect ratios and everything are completely different. How we can handle those such scenarios?
The question is, what is the essence of the asset? If it's doing the same thing, I think that between families should be named the same. But if it's something completely different, that has different, that it's using, I don't know, using different locations or whatever, probably should be the same. If you want to be able to distinguish between the two, you would like to separate them. But it really depends. It really depends on it's not a clear-cut answer for all cases. Depends on
because the thing is that when you start to use different families in the app, that could be a fairly generic issue that, Like maybe you want different, styling in different apps, and then now you start, when you develop a family, you need to start looking into other families, which actually keys they're actually using for everything. And
the idea is that you will be able to navigate between families seamlessly and won't be needing to change assets.
But the problem is that, I know that the thing is, the issue that it can happen that the same name, it can be used in two different places, which are actually rendering differently, and and then actually collide between each other. So as I told you, like an overlay.
What does it mean rendering differently?
So an overlay, you have an overlay for a cell, which in one spec is like this. Imagine, and the other one, in another family, the same overlay key is for an asset like this. So what happens?
So I would name it a vertical overlay and horizontal overlay.
Yeah, but we need a consistent naming for all of the assets, not just one. So
look, you want a rule of thumb, and it's complicated because it depends on the scenario that you're having. I cannot give you a rule of thumb. The rule of thumb should be try as much as you can to use the same naming between families, so so the user will be able to seamlessly move between. But if you have completely different thing, you are not able to do it. This might be solvable, and I'm not even sure then when we will allow that the user will be able to customize his own cell style and then add its asset like in the context. But even then, we will have some issues like that will require the user or the operator of this thing to add different elements, because one cell is like long. It doesn't imagine that you have a gradient that goes from left to right, not from bottom to top. Then if you have an asset that is very like the tablet that we have that is very wide, it might make sense. But then if you have an asset that is vertical, it doesn't make sense. So there's no rule of thumb. Try to minimize these changes, but if you need another key, you will need another key. And try to name it in a way that is that it makes sense not only for your family. Like, I don't know, vertical gradient, horizontal gradient, whatever, something. And if you cannot, you cannot. It's.
I would say we might create the basically naming for that, like 320x something 100, like so it would be easier to reuse whenever we have the same aspect ratio, same size of the overlay.
Yeah, you can name it with the aspect ratio.
But then it would require renaming existing families, right?
Depends. We need to understand. It's like to examine each case specifically. Look, we inherited the naming of keys from the past. This process is painful and it takes time to change. Alex is doing now changes in the Colorado that might be needing to do changes in other things. It's complex. And also I really think that there is no like a rule of thumb. And so always do that or always do that. There are guidelines. So if we try to minimize the separation between families, it will be easier for the user in the end of the day. So we should try to do that. If it doesn't fit, Javier, you need to create another key. I don't have a better solution, and if you have one, tell us.
Yeah. What I was thinking, but the thing is that, so when you use the application and you try to do a transition between families, many times it's not that straightforward, because each family is designed, with their own keys and everything. And as you said, like, it can happen that you have an overlay, 1 in 1, and the other one is overlay 7, and and you completely, it's hard to transit between them sometimes. And what I was thinking is maybe do like the styling and the naming by, like give more context, saying, but the problem is that you would definitely kill that, easy transition between families. So say you have a style, say, I don't know, like family, like a key, which would be like Colorado _ list _ 01 _ overlay, and straight away that it's for Colorado, for list 1, and this the overlay. But of course, they would only work for that specific case. So
it's problematic because it will require. Look, 90% of the keys are repeating ourselves. You have an image, then you have title 1 or label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4. I don't know. And then you have icon 1, icon 2, icon. This is what we will try to do when we will rewrite it. Because you have, in the end of the day, you have because of the size of a cell, you have a maximum amount of things you can put on top of the cell. It's finite. It's not infinite. So if we will do that, a person that is now doing, I don't know, an app that is using only Colorado, there is no chance that he will put any asset, I don't know, the font color of the second family. And then suddenly he would like to test, and then he say, shit, I also need to customize. It will create a lot of overhead for the user. So we try to minimize it. By minimizing it is by trying to repeat the keys. Again, when we will implement the brand book, which hopefully in the next couple of months, will change the way assets and styling are working in Zap, it will be less painful. Now it's painful only because of the build.
Yeah. I know it's
there was,
so, and I was just, no worries.
No, but also it's problematic. Like on iOS, for example, it would have been very easy to use the API. We have API for styles, so it would be very easy on iOS to load this JSON file and change everything remotely. But on Android, it's very complex.
It's not complex, Ran. It's not. For styling, we can do data binding and we'll just load remotely.
Yeah, but you need to go of course you can do that, but you need to go over 10,000 XMLs to change it.
Yes, of course.
So this is problematic. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, manually I can do everything. If I'm doing this code manually, I can write a class. Everyone is extending this class, and I do whatever I want. But I'm trying to do something that will allow us very easily to do it. But for styling, it's problematic.
Yeah, sometimes you can't.
And also
have cookie and eat cookie. But I believe that whenever you create like remote data binding for the styling, it won't break the existing ones.
The remote data binding for styling is also limited. You cannot put it in the styles file. You can only put it in an XML, and you cannot use it for fonts, and you cannot use it. It has a lot of limitation.
You can use that for fonts. You got something named binding fonts, and you can't do that. Absolutely. So maybe we could just investigate that more.
You're welcome to do that. I'm telling you that there is a glass ceiling that I investigated because of this painful months of investigation, including annotation processing and including things like trying to overwrite the view class of Android in order not to be needing to change and adding extra methods. It's not possible on Android. It's not. You have a lot of problems. We can talk about it if you want. You don't have a solution out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like,
No, on iOS
you can't have cookie and eat cookie. On
iOS you have a very simple solution. You can add, also in any other languages, but on Android you cannot do that. On iOS you can add something that is called a category, and it will allow you to add a method to existing class, like extend.
Well, we can do that in Kotlin at the moment, right? Because you got extension class for Kotlin.
So maybe then this would be a solution if we can do that. But I don't know what it will require. We need to investigate for that.
Okay.
Okay, we've run out of time, I guess.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And
Thank you guys.
have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
All right.